The South African Police Service is expected to destroy 800 million rand worth of drugs seized during operations. In recent weeks and months, there have been a number of drug seizures around the country. Last week, there was another bust where the SAPS seized cocaine with a street value of 80 million rand following another intelligence-driven operation at the Dube Trade Port within the King Shaka International Airport. For more on the story, we now speak to SABC News reporter Ofentse Setimo. Ofentse, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Well, I see that you have a mask on. Tell us what's about to happen.
Well, thank you very much. As you rightfully mentioned in your intro, drugs worth about 800 million are to be destroyed at a station in and around Gauteng. Police actually informed us that we're not supposed to disclose this particular location, as you know that the underworld are actually, seeking some of these drugs to actually resell. And there's been an attempt actually in Pretoria at one of the SAPS offices, where apparently there was an attempt to try and get access to these particular drugs. Hence the secrecy behind this particular operation, to try and make sure the public does not know where this is actually transpiring. But I'm joined now by the spokesperson, Athlenda Mate, who's to elaborate a bit further on what is transpiring here today. Athlenda, thank you so much for your time. Can you just tell us where these drugs come from? I know it's busts that have been happening all over the country. Elaborate on the details there.
Well, very good morning and thank you for the opportunity. Today we are witnessing the destruction of drugs, 5 tons of drugs with a street value of 800 million rand. So these were drugs that were collected during our crime prevention operations, and they include cocaine, Mandrax tablets, as well as heroin. This is not the first drug destruction. This is actually the third in this financial year. Since April, we've had 3 of these. In the last one, destroyed drugs worth 170 million rand in Cape Town.
Yeah, and there's an impression that, these drugs, we never see them being destroyed. What informed your decision to eventually, show the public how you dispose of these narcotics?
So it's quite important to highlight that this is a regular process. So every year we conduct these drug destruction processes where we destroy drugs that were collected during our operations throughout the country. This, I think, is an opportunity for the nation to see what the police do with the drugs that have been collected throughout these operations. So every year, this is what we do. 3 to 4 times a year. Once cases have been finalized, we obtain a court order. We get permission from court to destroy these particular drugs. So some of the drugs that are going to be destroyed today are linked to high-profile cases, and one of those cases is the drug bust that happened last year in August in Cape Town, where our police intercepted a truck that was transporting drugs worth 400 million rand. So we know in that particular case, 3 people have already been convicted. The 3 main suspects that were arrested, they have been convicted. One was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment. The other was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment. And the third convicted suspect was convicted to 1 year imprisonment sentence. So we are quite encouraged with the operations that are being conducted by our members throughout the country. You would have, if you followed the latest news, you would know that just last week in KZN, we seized cocaine worth 115 million rand that was coming in from a vessel that was making its way from Brazil to the country. So we are quite impressed with the manner in which our members are responding to dealing in drugs and the possession of drugs and drugs entering the country from other countries. So we are quite impressed. Our intelligence is on the ground, and we will continue to sniff out all forms of criminality as we usher in the busy festive period. Through operations like Operation Chanela, which is our high-density operations that were launched earlier this year in May, we have seen more than 15,000 suspects that were arrested for being in possession of drugs. In those particular operations, we have also arrested more than 7,000 suspects that were found to be dealing in drugs. So these numbers do indicate to us that As a South African police service, we are making inroads and we are dismantling these organized crime syndicates that are linked to the drug trade in the region.
Yes. And you are operating in secrecy. You wouldn't want us to divulge the location of where this is transpiring for safety reasons and everything. Can you inform us the logistics behind a process like this where you are ensuring that there's secrecy, but at the same time you also want to inform the public that you are doing work to dispose of such narcotics?
Well, absolutely. This is a high-risk operation. We cannot obviously divulge the work and the planning that goes behind this particular drug destruction process, but we are quite confident, like I've indicated as the police, that we are dislodging, we are dismantling these organized crime syndicates that are involved in the drug trade. And as we usher in busy festive period, we are quite confident that the Safer Festive operational plan that we have in place will continue to ensure that more drug dealers and those that are found to be on the wrong side of the law get arrested and get convicted for crimes that they have been found guilty of. I think it's also important to highlight that since the launch of Operation Shanela, since the 8th of May, we have arrested through Operation Shanela more than 180,000 suspects for various crimes ranging from murder to rape. But all these arrests would not have been possible if it was not for the dedication of our members on the ground, if it was not from the tip-offs from community members. So going into the festive period, we are encouraging community members to work closely with the police so that collectively we can ensure that we put a stop to all forms of criminality in South Africa.
Thank you very much. Well, as we heard, that's Athlenda Mate of the SAPS actually saying that she's quite impressed in the manner that they are turning things around in terms of the peddling of drugs in the country, saying that just a week ago there was a drug bust worth over 100 million happening in Durban. In fact, if I can just get out of shot so that you can see what is actually transpiring, you know, it's a lot of drugs. You can imagine 800 million worth of drugs is actually a lot. As you can see, they're actually emptying them from this particular truck and they are putting them into this warehouse where they're actually going to destroy them. It's not yet clear how they're actually going to do it, and since there is secrecy involved in this particular operation, they're actually telling us that cameras will actually not be allowed in the vicinity where these particular drugs will actually be destroyed.